an annexation on Old Redwood Highway, which is actually the Baumgartner property down behind Redner Fuel and down behind Bear Republic. The other new business that we did at the time was last night was we gave direction to Councilmember Bagby, who's going to be our voting delegate at the League of California Cities convention that's held October the 7th to October the 9th. The good news on that is that convention is all going to be virtual now instead of having to go down to Long Beach. So it's going to be a savings for the city pertaining to reimbursement of expenses, and it'll give more council members the opportunity to attend as well. We went into subcommittee reports, and there was not very much on the subcommittee reports. And that was pretty much the meeting. At this point, I'd usually turn to David Kelly, our assistant manager, and say, our city manager, and say, David, did I get everything? And then he'd fill in the blanks from there. But I don't know if there's any questions from anyone about the city council meeting last evening that I could answer. I think if you just unmute yourself and share with us your questions. I'm just going to look through my notes here. I think I told you about Veterans Day, where we're going to be celebrating and giving up proclamation to 4 World War II veterans. Yeah. Well, one of the things that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gus, hey, I was just going to say thank you. I appreciate you going over that meeting. And I'm really excited about, you know, the Veterans Day thing. But also you clarified with this information about the water rates, and not that they affect me personally at the moment, other than where I have my business, but I noticed on the neighborhood websites and on the chats, you know, people going back and forth about, you know, oh, the water's already too high and all this kind of stuff back and forth. And then there's a lot of people that are in support of the city making whatever decision that it needs to make. I shouldn't say choice, but decision that it needs to make. And then there's a lot of people who I don't believe have a clear understanding of what it costs and what it takes to upgrade via mandate. I worked with the city of Santa Rosa's reclamation department for a few years myself, and I totally understand that that's going to cost the city money. And with the limited population that we have, it just seems like a lot worse. And I don't see that there's any comparison with Santa Rosa or cities like that. But I wonder how we can better get that information out to the public that are going back and forth and debating with each other about something that, you know, they probably just need more information about. How can we do that? That's just a thought.
You know, that's always a challenge on the delivery methods that we use to get the information pushed out there. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this coffee with the mayor session. And I will, maybe at our next meeting, I will have our city engineer, Mark Rincon, come and speak to some of the capital improvement projects, because that's what's really driving the increase is the capital improvement projects. The infrastructure has to be kept up to pace so that we can actually provide the service. And as I said to you earlier, and I'm desperately trying to find it again here, we have a lot of these projects are mandated that we have to have done. It's not like we have a choice, and those mandates come without any money. They're unfunded mandates. And again, I wish I could figure out how to get this up on how I can share this on my screen, but you're right, Al. We do have to get the word out there better, and I'm not doing a very good job right now getting it out there. But we will be sending something out, and like I said, it's a 13% increase. It amounts to about $6 per household. And
well, let me let me just say, you're doing a fine job. This is a very good step in the right direction. I love the fact that you're doing this, and opening it up, for discussion to people. So it's great. And you're not doing a bad job. It's just
Well,
that there are people that aren't hearing it. That's all.
yeah, and I don't mean to say 13% is $6. $6 to a lot of folks is a lot of money.
Yeah.
There were times in my life, as I'm sure in yours, when you wish you had $6 in your wallet. So, we're very conscious of that. We could have delayed and increased them in July of 2021, but we decided, no, we need to do it now. And the hesitation was because of what we're going through with COVID-19 and the fires and all. Is now is January the time to actually increase the rate? So should we wait till July? We decided we have to bite the bullet and do it now.
Well, I think you guys are on the right track. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And we will get more information out on that. With the water bill, I'm hoping we can do an insert. Again, I'd like to drive people to the webpage, the city's webpage. It's an underutilized tool that we have to get the information out there. We've done our best over the years to make it user friendly. I think it's come a long way, and it's pretty easy to find things on the city webpage. Most of the navigating tools are right there. When you go cloverdale.net, cloverdale.com, it just pops up for you.
Well, in my conversations, I will push that also. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm going to ask the chief, seeing how I was just talking about the first page of the city's website, the banner that says emergency alert. And I think I'm going to turn it over to the chief to talk about that, to talk about Nexo, and maybe to give an update on the current status of the fires that we have burning all around us. So Chief, would you like to share in no particular order? You kind of choose, and we'll go from there.
So I'll start with what I do have in regards to the fire. I reported yesterday, I recognized some faces on here from our Cloverdale Resiliency meeting. So this might sound familiar to you, but really where the Wallbridge fire is it remains, I think today's report is about 55,209 acres. We're still at 95% containment. And as of yesterday's report, they're still working on the mop-up efforts on that. So we look to be in really good shape as far as that's concerned. And based on that, the county has reduced their EOC to a virtual only, which means they're not at an EOC. They're operating at a duty status through virtual. They're monitoring still and providing any updates, but their focus started to change a little bit on PSPS events, weather, and extreme heat conditions, which is the right thing at this point because those are concerns we need to have. So we kind of here at Cloverdale kind of align with that EOC status. We did close ours officially, but there's nothing that says we can't reopen if there are going to be changes. Certainly a PS event will change that if need to be. Some of the focus, of course, is monitoring what's happening up north in our neighboring county in Mendocino County at the Oak Fire. That one's still got quite a bit of fire going on, about only 25% containment. But the good news is they did open up Highway 101. So that's progress there. It sounds like they stopped the threat coming down enough to open that highway corridor up. So that's where that stands now. As part of what Mayor was saying, I kind of want to just echo what he was saying about the importance of checking out all of our social media platforms. We're really trying to step up our efforts on notifications. I know, Al, you were part of the Listos meeting with Alma the other day, which was excellent information that's out there. But one of the key takeaways from that is the alert messaging system. We've upgraded our Nixle platform. I'm sure everybody knows that by now. And we started pushing out a lot more information that the community might not be used to, a year ago. And we're very hopeful that, the community is seeing that difference. We've had a lot more people subscribe to Nixle. And this platform is very effective for us. And probably about 4 months ago, I pushed out a nixle on how to sign up. And I do want to just cover that again today. I know Melanie's part of Cloverdale Resiliency, like I said, Al. So some of you folks are very familiar with how we're doing this nixle and how we want to really encourage people to sign up. But I do want to say, just like the mayor said, it goes beyond nixle, because once we nixle what the police department puts out, it automatically posts to our Cloverdale Police Department Facebook page. So there's other avenues. If somebody here doesn't have a cell phone and doesn't have that capability, but maybe they have a desktop computer, they will get that via email if they're signed up. So long as they've subscribed that way and accept the email and input their email, they'd be able to get it via that way. Or they can certainly go to any one of the City of Cloverdale's websites or our Cloverdale Police Facebook page, and they can get all the information that was being put out. One of the key takeaways to the information is the valuable links that we provide on how to find resources and how to get information. SoCo Emergency is a huge link that we've been pushing a lot because it has a lot of information for people to see what's going on, whether it's sheltering, carriage of food, pets, how that's working out in evacuation situations, locations of these, because we have to consider COVID as part of the sheltering process in this. So it's not as easy as it used to be, and there's a lot of factors that change this, but we try to give at least the links whenever possible. And I want to add to the fact that should there be an emergency situation in our City of Cloverdale, you would see a lot more of this information being pushed out in a much more expedited way. It would come out via an alert system. It would reach everybody who's signed up, and it's going to have a lot more information as we move on. And so I don't know if Susie can put that up, but I did send Gus the document that I sent out on an Excel several months ago on the exact steps on how you can sign up and how you should register on Nixle so that you can get all the messaging, and even the ability to register in Spanish so that you get your messages via Spanish. So I don't know if Susie, did that come across? Are you able to put that up?
Yes, give me just a minute and I'll pull that letter up for you.
Thank
I'll
you.
share it with everybody in the links below.
Excellent. I'm hoping everybody who's on here today has noticed that there's been quite a bit more information pushed out through Nixle now that we've gotten the 360 platform. And should there be a major event like an evacuation order or a warning here, we would also incorporate our reverse 911 system, which means that people who have hardline telephones will also get an automated voice message of the advisory evacuation order on their hardline telephone. And that's not something you had to sign up for. That just came automatic, because when I first signed this up, I had to populate with AT&T subscribers, and they created the overlay of how many individuals here in the community have that. And so it was automatic. You didn't have to sign up for that. So that's a key important fact.
And Chief, you had mentioned social media, and I think there are so many good things about social media, and then there are some things that aren't so good. And I think one of the things that we really have to be careful of on social media is knowing where the information is coming from. What's the source of the information? And is it just gossip on the street, or is it truly coming out of the PD or out of the Citrus Fair, the chamber, a reliable source? So you really have to be careful where you get your information and not feed into the rumor frenzy, because it really does work against us.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in times of emergencies. I've already seen a lot of things come through via Facebook and community messaging that just, it wasn't factual, and it in a lot of ways interrupts our process. So I would certainly say that if you want the most accurate, up-to-date, look for our Nixles. Another reason to sign up, because we're the only ones that control that. If you're getting a Nixle, you're getting it from Cloverdale Police, and it's because it's actual information or directions or instructions. As far as the Facebook and things like that, it automatically populates to our Facebook, So that's a good resource. We're not going to allow things on our Cloverdale Police Facebook, and the city's not either. That's going to be information that's not factual. We're going to give it as best as we can, most up to date, and it will always be two very good resources on Facebook, especially. Look to the police department or look to the city of Cloverdale, and you'll get the most up to date information. And that's what I encourage everybody to follow.
Susie, can you share that document that you
She's
posted?
working on it.
I'm sorry?
She's working on it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I put it in the comment section so that anybody wants to download it and print it, they can do that or look at it. And it's
Great.
also going out, nearly the whole thing has gone out with the senior center's newsletter, and it's also gone out with some information to Clover Springs. So it has been getting distributed.
Good, good.
Hey, Gus, I was hoping that you would elaborate a little bit more today about what city officials and council members were busy doing when we first were hit with the Wall Ridge fire. Obviously, Chief and I are, and Al, I mean, Bert's part of the resilience, you are, Marta Cruz. I mean, I'm aware of all the people that have been on the Cloverdale Resilience Committee because we meet on a regular basis. But I think our general public is not aware how involved the city council members and the city employees were and are and continue to be during our times of high need, like the Wall Ridge fire. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, or Chief, if you want to?
Sure. I think together we can do that. But, you know, just, you know, I think our city employees, our city council members, Nina at the chamber, you know, Katie Young over at the Citrus Fair, yourself, Melanie, you got to pat yourself on the back as well. You know, everybody just kind of jumps into action without being told. The chief is going to talk in a second about activation of the EOC, how that's determined, and the different levels of the EOC, and when they're activated. But the city council members, for example, you mentioned Councilmember Cruz. She's constantly in touch with the Latino community and her network of folks there to make sure that they're up to speed and receiving the information. Both, we put out the information both in English and in Spanish, and she's constantly making sure that it's out there for them. Councilmember Bagby, she's all over with the county and doing networking with her base. Myself, I go to the EOC when it's activated, and quite frankly, I don't do a whole lot at the EOC except sit there and listen to what's going on. There were no decisions that were actually my role was less this time than it was in 2017 when we had actually activated the Citrus Fair as a shelter. My job then was to go between the EOC and the Citrus Fair and give updates. And fortunately, there were some folks there that also spoke Spanish, so they were translating as well. And about every 4 hours, I would go over with an update. And then Katie Young at the time, you know, she was working with the Lions Club and the Kiwanis and the Rotary to make sure that folks that were evacuated to the Citrus Fair were being fed and being cared for in that sense. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and it's difficult for me to articulate what each individual council member does. I can just tell you the role of the mayor is to be at the EOC and to help spread the word on what's going on. So, Chief, could you chat a little bit about what the city does behind the scenes? Because one of the things I'd eventually like us to do, and I don't know when the timing will be, I'd like to do a tour of the Emergency Operational Center. The unfortunate part is we don't set it up unless we have an emergency. So for us to go through the exercise and not have an emergency, it's very expensive, it's very time consuming, and I don't think you're going to get the flavor of exactly what it does.
Yeah.
So at the next an emergency in the future, I'm hoping to do a video with the city manager and just do a walkthrough of what each individual is doing at the EOC. So.
Right. Yeah, so I'll take it from there. Let me start with the fact of answering a question about why we would activate one. And really, in the case of the Walbridge fire, we have to be concerned with a potential threat that fire poses to our community. So there's no real rhyme or reason that says when we can't or when we should or when we, don't. But we do it based on what we feel is a threat to our community and how we respond to that threat and whether or not we have the resource capable of addressing the needs here. And it really comes down to that. So when you have a Walbridge fire on the outskirts of our community that's potentially threatening our community, and we already know when it comes to wildfires, we're a pretty small organization here. So we know we're going to need resources. The city's going to need resources in order to address these threats and help us to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And that's really when the ultimate decisions decide to come out on, do we activate one? So based on what I just explained, on August 19th, we decided to activate what was considered a level 1. This is the lowest level. And because of COVID, it was done virtually. I remained the on-duty status for this level 1, which means I was monitoring the progress of the fire. I wasn't the only one, but I was just designated as a level 1, monitoring the progress of the fire and getting reports from CAL FIRE, as well as monitoring the county's position on evacuations. So that's how that was operated, and that's not uncommon. I think the county, some of the other agencies around the county also were at level 1, Healdsburg for a while. But then as it started to pose a little bit more of a threat to us, started to move closer, there were some concerns. We did upgrade to a level 3, which means we fully staffed the EOC with members of the senior staff. So we had the finance director, community development, the engineer, myself, and David all working in the operations center, and Lieutenant Parker was there too, all working our functions in the EOC. And that's what a level 3 is. It's fully staffed. So we're looking to determine what resource requests we're going to need, how we're going to get those resources here if needed. And we were pretty much on a monitoring and standby alert ready should we need to evacuate or put out evacuation notices, and how our evacuation plan is going to look in that process. So we were up and running at a level 3 for about 3 days. And then when it appeared that the fire was no longer an immediate threat to the city, we dropped back down to a level 1 in the monitoring status. And then that officially closed, I believe it was a week ago, due to the fire no longer being a threat, or posing a threat to the city. So that's kind of how that looked. And I want to just kind of wanted to give everybody a little brief of how that looked and how we handled that. And that will be the same way we handle that under any circumstance. PSPS, we may start it as a level 1 just to kind of see where we're at. If things get really long, we're looking at a 5-day stretch of a PSPS. We'll be very concerned in that regard, probably activate into a level 3 and start dealing with resources requests. So you're on mute, Mayor.
Been having some computer problems. I touch it and it shuts off. But and Chief, if I'm repeating, I apologize. But another thing that people just kind of don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Public Works, our Public Works Department. I mean, we have automatic gauges in all of our water tanks that will tell the level of the water. Well, when we activate the EOC, they go physically to those water tanks and look to make sure that they're full and they're not getting a false reading. Because needless to say, if there's a fire within the town, we need the fire hydrants to be able to get the water they need through the water tanks. So we're constantly checking that. We have a couple pumping stations where we have to make sure that the generators are running. They also check with each gas station in town to check on their levels of fuel. And when somebody's low, they see if they can possibly order a delivery so that we have gasoline in the gas stations. So behind the scene, Public Works is doing a lot of things. The most important, of course, is checking our water supply to fight the fire and, of course, for consumption. So everybody is out there doing something.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to add that I didn't bring up. Part of the overall goal here is to really get our critical infrastructure back up and running with backup generation. Beyond the police department, there wasn't a whole lot of generation for our critical infrastructure during these PSPS events. But we've upped that. We've gotten the city on board now, so the city hall can run when there's a outage. And then we're working on a courtyard project right now to hopefully try to get the courtyard up and running for our fueling station in times of emergencies where there is no power. So that's a current project we're working on now, and hopefully to have some resolve with that in the near future.
And I guess the other thing too is, I keep saying this is, Cloverdale is definitely an island. If there's a countywide disaster, and there was a few years ago with the Coffee Park fires, we're on our own. I mean, we really can't rely or expect our neighboring cities to help us. They have their own issues. So we really have to make sure that we have the plans in place to handle the different crises that we're eventually going to run into. It's not it's a question of when, especially with the earthquake. That's, right now we're all focused on the fires in Covert 19, but the earthquake is what really concerns me. So, any other questions or comments on that, Melanie? Did we do a half-assed decent job getting that information to you?
I think you did more than that. I think that even with me being on the committee and attending, I mean, we were doing daily meetings during the most intense of the fire situation. Both of you have brought up things that I wasn't even aware of. So I'm sure our general public could be enlightened with that information. And I would love for this to go farther than just the 12 participants that you see here today, that somehow we can get that out to the general public, that, I mean, like the waterworks, the fuel, the EOC, and there's so much here that you just covered that I didn't know. So how best to get those words, that information out to all, I think would be our next step.
And it's like we learn from our mistakes, and I won't call them mistakes. That's a poor choice of words. But for example, the chief just mentioned that City Hall is now on the backup generator. When we first had the coffee fires in 17, there was no electricity here at City Hall. We had no alternative internet access. Well, all of that has been taken care of. We have generator backup now. We have alternative in case Comcast goes down, or we have multiple internet providers. So we learn from our mistakes, and we constantly tweak it, and we get better at it. So just, one more thing too, I wanted to mention. At last night's city council meeting, it was the first virtual meeting, 100% virtual meeting that the city council has ever had. No one was gathered together. We were all in different locations. I think that's a great thing. It gives the public a broader opportunity to look at what's going on at the city council meetings. They can zoom right into the meeting. I think the downside of that is there's a certain segment of our population don't know how to do Zoom. They don't know how to get their questions answered. There's no place to go where they can address the city council. So, I just want to assure everyone that while we have a public comment section in the beginning of the meeting, I think as long as I'm the mayor, I'll always entertain questions, regardless of whether it's in the public comment section or not, because it is difficult to navigate through the system. You pick up the phone, there's a phone number on the agenda, you can call, it rings to the clerk, and she will get your public comment to us. So it's always a challenge, but there is a way to reach us. And so anyhow, I just wanted to get that out there.
Gus, I think that's very important that you got that out there, because a lot of people are intimidated with not knowing how to address the city council or what the policy or procedure is in communicating with the city council. I agree with you also that we don't necessarily learn from our mistakes, but history teaches us, and I think that's a better term. But I also think that it's important what you said, that if you are, as long as you're the mayor, you're going to get the questions answered. Honestly, that's one of the best things I've heard today.
Yeah, and it's not just me. I mean, I won't be the mayor after the first of the year, but I guarantee you any of the city council members that are sitting up there now want that communication. That's one of the beautiful things about living in Cloverdale. It's a family. And
right.
Yeah, so there is a phone number where you can call right in and have your questions answered. So.
And I'm sure that phone number is accessible on the.
It is, and I'm making a note to make sure that we get it up there a little clearer when we send out the agendas as well. So.
Great, thanks.
Anything else that you'd like to talk about for this first go round? Any questions, or Melanie, anything on your end?
I think that this has been an excellent first coffee with the mayor, although unfortunately I never got my cup of tea or coffee today. So I'm going to have to get that as soon as we're done. But I'm very pleased, Gus, with this whole idea, and hopefully we can get a few more people to join us on the next one. So we have to spread the word
and
Gus, the information.
And Gus, I echo what you say about Melanie and how amazing she's been through all of this. And I also want to remind everyone that, and you too, that the Senior Center, me being a member of the board, we are definitely on board with our community, and we are definitely at any time willing to partner with the city and the services in any way that we can. So I totally appreciate you doing this, and the opportunity to have us here with you and be able to chat. And that goes for you too, Chief. Anything you need that we can help with.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's input and involvement in this. It's very beneficial for everybody.
Thank you.
And I think it's also important to note that we're very blessed here at the Senior Center to have an incredible team. Susie's incredible. She's I don't know what we do without Susie. Bert's here 5 days a week, if not more. Al and Frank and Dana, Joanne, Shauna. We're very blessed with a very awesome team. And when we get back in here with our volunteers and we can open up, the team's going to get even stronger. So thanks.
Well, Chief, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry?
I said thank you for having me.
And Al, thank you as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
Susie, thank you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. But you have my phone number. You can always get in touch with me, regardless of anyone out there that wants to have a cup of coffee or talk. So.
Hey, Melanie, I'm like you. I didn't get my coffee with the mayor this morning, but what I had instead was water with a Walter. So I think that works too.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.